Israel and India, two ancient civilizations, both under pressure, both redefining their place in a rapidly changing world. Joining me today is Chitresh Kapoor, who has visited Israel multiple times, including after October 7th, walked through communities near the Gaza border, and engaged with Israeli defense and AI leaders. Today, we're talking war, ideology, diplomacy, civilizational identity, and the future of the India-Israel alliance. Welcome to the show.
Shalom, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
So let's speak about first the what is happening currently with Prime Minister Modi visiting Israel. What do you think is the significance of him visiting Israel at this particular moment, especially amid the ongoing regional tensions and the shifting global alliances?
So, once again, thank you so much. So, Daniel, very good question. I think the most important reason is uh, apart from the defense, that is one side of the story. The most important fact, which a lot of people really don't understand, that Israel, or particularly Jews and Indians and Hindus, have been living together for almost 3,000 plus years. And it is a civilizational thing. Two of the oldest surviving traditions are right now just about working together with with one very common enemy, and that is radicalism. So radicalism is extremely bad, and it's hitting both Israel and India. And probably we are the only two countries that can understand and feel each other's pain. So 7th October, when I went there, I actually felt what was it all about. I went to that film, that music festival, what was happening there. So I could just understand, because having seen 26/11, and I was there when 26/11 happened. I was in Taj Hotel, and I had just moved 2 hours before the whole thing happened. So I narrowly missed it, but I could understand what was going on. The stress, the tension was all about. While there are global tensions across the world, particularly in Middle East, which is almost always burning with Iran crisis, there can be a US-Iran war anytime in the future, with regime change operations happening in Venezuela. We've just had an elections in Bangladesh on our eastern border. So I think it had to do more with the fact that Israel needs India just as much as India needs Israel for all the technology. So it was about, and I think today we're going to have a lot of deals being signed. Officially, unofficially, a lot of things are being discussed. Officially, there are certain deals that are going to be signed. And I believe Israel needs manpower in a lot of sectors. And I think that is something which is definitely going to be discussed and made official today.
Now, India maintains relations with Israel, but also Iran, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf. Do you think that this visit signals a deeper alignment with Israel, or is India able to balance all sides with all of the relationships?
So, historically, India has always had a non-alignment treaty immediately after independence. So, for us, national interest, Indian interest comes first. And along with that, the reason why we do not have any personal relations with Iran, it's just transactional. We need oil from them. And if we have to send humanitarian aid to Afghanistan, there are only two options available for India. One of the option is Pakistan, which is our number one enemy. And also they swear by you. They look at you at the same way they look at us. So either sending goods to Afghanistan is through Pakistan or Iran. So obviously we'll have to choose the lesser evil of the two. We understand what is going on as far as the protests are concerned. Suddenly the voices have stopped coming. The internet shut down, the blockade is happening. We do understand all of that, but unfortunately it's choosing the lesser evil of the two. Both India and Israel, we have those ties, we have those relationships, but we can also have some disagreements between each other. And Israel understands India, and India understands the pain and the problems of Israel. So I believe that could be one of the reasons why we have transactional relations with Iran, and that's about it. Because we have to understand this current regime of Iran, the Khomeini regime, is relatively anti-Pakistan as compared to Reza. During the Reza Pahlavi's time, before the Islamic revolution and all those things, they were hand in glove with America, and obviously America's illicit child, which is Pakistan. They were giving them all the military support, whether it was 1965 war or 1971 war. In 1971 war, even though India and Israel did not have any diplomatic relations, but we still had military ties between India and Israel. So it's sort of a balancing act which India has to do. And as far as the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and UAE is concerned, there are approximately close to 8 to 9 million Indians settled there, working there in different capacities. So we also have to take that into account. With a lot of 8 to 9 million people living there, their livelihood, there's a lot of influx of FDIs that come from that country. So we have to do a lot of balancing act.
How does Prime Minister Modi navigate close ties with Israel while he has a country with over 200 million Muslims, right? Is there any political risk to that or not?
Good question once again. So see, traditionally, the BJP party from where Narendra Modi is coming, he and his the back door, which is RSS, they are right wingers. They are perceived to be anti-Muslims, and that's a fair perception to have as compared to Congress, which has always been very pro-Muslims, very pro-Palestine, and in fact, very recently, while PM Modi is in Israel as we speak, there are a lot of Congress voices here in India which are speaking that India should talk about Palestine, India should talk about XYZ reasons why we should not be there. But predominantly, what is going on, that a lot of development is happening in India, particularly in the last 10 years. And there is no state sponsored of persecution that has happened against Muslims. Yes, there have been isolated incidents, which I'm not going to deny. There have been isolated incidents, but that's not been government funded or there's not been promoted by the government. So at the end of the day, when the person sees that he's able to provide for his family, there is money on the table, there is job opportunity, there is business happening, the personal things, the religion sort of at times take a backseat. But having said that, for them religion is extremely important, and but he's trying to navigate it smartly. But yes, there are challenges.
Now, you personally visited Israel after October 7th and you stood near the Gaza border. You heard the sirens and you saw the aftermath up close. What changed in you? How did you feel seeing that and being there?
So I should say I'm unfortunate enough. I've also seen the Punjab massacre that happened in India. I know what happened with Kashmiri Pandits in early 90s. So the hatred towards Hindus and Jews, that is something which is a little difficult to digest, because while we are talking, we are thinking that how we can do something better, create the new technology, let's see how we can improve manpower and make money. We don't deny the fact that we also want to make money. It's very difficult for a common Indian to understand the level of hatred these guys have. So when I came back, when I spoke to my team back home in Delhi, a lot of people in India are still ignorant of the fact that there is immense amount of hatred. And the reason for that hatred is plain and simple, our identity. So that was very, very, very difficult. Even as of now, I felt in Israel, relatively people are aware of the fact how Palestinians view them. However, in India, there is still a very large section of society which is not ready to accept that Pakistan and radicalism, and particular all these Islamist elements, are anti-Hindus. This is something we still need to understand, whereas Israel understands it very clearly. But you have to see, when I was in visiting kibbutz, I saw blood stains on the door. I saw where that microwave and that babies were burnt. How sick can that mentality be? You have to be extremely sick to understand, and for common Indian who has nothing to do with all of that will not be able to understand, because we are not tuned to think in those lines. Unfortunately, when I was there in Israel, at the same time Pahalgam attack happened in India on 22nd April 2025, when the last time I was there, where people were killed by asking their religion. So it's a very different mindset, and only Indian Israel can understand that set of hatred. Whereas in Europe, they still try to be politically correct. And what has happened to Europe by being politically correct? They've become far more radicalized. There are ghettos in England where normal people can't go to, the Western way of life. For them, it's either my way or the highway. That sort of set is different. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. When I was in Israel, they asked me about my food preferences. I said I eat non-vegetarian food. That's not a problem. Of course, no beef. Like, for example, pork is a big no-no for most of the Jews. A beef is a big no-no for us. And whenever I would go, the MFA would make sure and tell me that, hey, this food is not for you. This particular dish is not for you. This showcases that the civilization, because of civilization, a community has risen above certain mindset and they understand the food and the basic preferences. You know what? Let's try not to keep that particular dish in front of this person. That's something very big. It may sound very basic, but it's something extremely big. So yeah.
Now, after seeing everything firsthand, what do you think the world fundamentally misunderstands about Israel's response to October 7th and the war that ensued in Gaza?
See, thankfully, Al Jazeera does fantastic marketing. I think Pakistan and the Pakistan Army and DGISPR have learned one thing from Palestine is a fantastic marketing. So, lot of these things, having paid actors to do a lot of stuff, we know that. And I'll tell you what, besides Israel, it's only India which understands that. Europe is being naive at this point of time. I think they have risen over the last 1 year, but have they risen enough? Have they joined together as one? No, definitely not. Uh, so I feel that because of their marketing efforts, just by being politically correct, and a lot of Europeans still have that colonial burden inside them. That there are things that have been done by us, so we need to allow. But you need to understand whom are you allowing into your society. If you're allowing an educated person from a good family background, or even if not, the educated person is not important. But more important is, can that person align to our values? So which is definitely never going to happen. So this hatred is only going to increase, because what's going to happen, while a common Israeli or a common Indian, their living standards going to improve because of technology, because of education, because of other things, we are going to improve and their standards are going to go down. So they're going to become even more regressive as far as their thought process is concerned. And the fundamental thing which I feel is how we treat our women. IDF has women workforce. There are women workforce. There are women officers even in the Indian Army and Indian Air Force. There, they're not even allowed to get out of the house. So technically, your 50% of your manpower is not working and not contributing economically to the society. So that's the fundamental difference where I feel I don't know. I don't have unfortunately any answer for it. But I think we are going to go from bad to worse, or if we are not at worse already.
In your mind, is the Israel-Palestine conflict about territory or is it about ideology?
It's just about ideology. There is nothing to do with that territory. There can never be. It's very similar to our India-Pakistan story. Pakistan is not interested in Kashmir. It's just about the hatred. Pakistan wants to take away first Kashmir, then they're going to ask for Punjab of India and then the other parts of India. It's very similar with Palestine. The Hamas at this point of time, there's a reason why they say from the river to the sea. So at the end of the day, the ideology remains the same. Either you convert, die, or run away. That's about it. It's the same thing what happened in India. In Kashmir in 1990s, there was a saying called Ralib, Galib, Chalib, which means either you go away or convert or die. That's about it. There is no fourth option.
Now, as we know, India and Israel have a very long history, but it seems that India hesitated for a long time to openly align with Israel, I guess only after Prime Minister Modi. Why do you think it took India so long to openly align with Israel?
Yes, the actual relations, while the historical level and all those things were always there. When I was living in Goa in mid to late 90s, I think there were predominant lot of places where Israelis would always be there. There would be restaurants where the names would be written in Hebrew, the dish would be written in Hebrew, and there'll be kosher meals and all of that. One of the fundamental reasons is that before Prime Minister Modi, or I'll go a little back, in 2003 or something like that, when Vajpayee ji was the Prime Minister of India, from the same party, which is Bharatiya Janata Party, your Prime Minister, Mr. Ariel Sharon, did visit India. I think that was the first visit by an Israeli Prime Minister to India officially. But before that, India's generally been ruled by Congress. Ruled is the wrong word. It's generally been, the Congress has been the predominant party as far as India is concerned. And their pro-Palestine and their pro-minority stance was always there, whether it is the textbooks of India. So even the textbooks of India was totally hijacked by the Congress narrative story, where we were unnecessarily glorifying the very people, the mass murderers, and the very people, whether it was the Mughals or the Turkish dynasty or something like that, who were responsible for death and destruction in the country. So that was the number one reason that Congress didn't want to let go of their vote. So the vote bank politics, unfortunately, it remains the same irrespective of the world. Thankfully, 2014, when Prime Minister Modi came to the power, we decided it is in our national interest that we officially, our engagement should increase. Unfortunately, just like Israel, we also have a freedom of press, and there are a lot of people who keep saying gays for Palestine, this for LGBTQ for Palestine. So I keep asking them, do you understand? Can you do that protest in Palestine? Try to do that there. Try to openly go and say what you do in front of the IDF, or you publicly humiliate the Indian Army general on the national television. Try to do that in Pakistan, or try to do that in Palestine. You'll be thrown from the 10th or 20th floor, or whatever is the highest floor. Or even if you don't die, you'll be sent back and then thrown again. So the fundamental thing is the vote bank politics was the number one reason. But thankfully, post 2014, it was a national consensus that it makes more sense, much, much more sense to be aligned with a country which has historically helped you when you did not give them any diplomatic status. So, yeah.
Yeah. When countries choose their allies, are they more guided by economic interests like oil or by remembering who stood with them in times of crisis?
I would say it should be both. I would say it should be both. But then, apart from Israel and Israel and India, uh, there are not too many old civilizations left. America is just about 500 years old. Europe, yes. But unfortunately, the politics of the day, whether it is India, whether it is Israel, whether it is Europe or America, it is vote bank politics. And Trump is doing stuff by mega and all those things, which is again more America than anyone else. So as of now, it is more governed by financial interests, but I think history should be extremely important. And this is something which yesterday, which both Netanyahu and our Prime Minister Modi said, that there has not been any government sponsored conversion or any anti-Semitism in India ever. Even though it has happened in Europe, it has happened everywhere. It's only increasing as we speak, but it has never happened in India. And one of the fundamental reasons is we live, we live and let live together. And I was surprised when couple of weeks back, when I was part of the there was a conference happening in Delhi where we were talking about how the Jews came to India. Well, I knew they've been here for 1,000 years. I did not know they've been here for 2,000 plus years. They've been, because a lot of, and in fact, one of my very good friend from Bombay, I asked him about a week and a half back, hey, you never told me that you are Jewish. He says, well, I was celebrating Diwali with you. I was going out there. And that's the best part. They were living here amongst us and celebrating our festivals. As kid, I would go to his house. As kid, he would come to my house to eat and drink, because we integrated so nicely together. Yeah. Yes.
Speaking about alliances between countries, it's very interesting that India has some sort of an alliance, like we said, with Iran, but Pakistan also has an alliance with Iran. How does Iran balance India and Pakistan? As we know, their ideology is more aligned with Pakistan. How do you view that?
Iran has oil, which is being sanctioned by America, but they need to make money. And because it's being heavily sanctioned since 1979, the only way their crude oil can be sold is through black market. And that is the only value that Pakistan has. Pakistan has one value, and that's called the nuisance value. So all the black market crude oil that is being sold to the world, except China, is being done by Pakistan. So from from Iran, it goes to Balochistan, which is an occupied territory by Pakistan. And from there, it is the Pakistan army and the ISI sells it to the world. So fundamentally, it is crude oil. Yes, they both are Muslim countries, but one is a Shia dominated country and one is a Sunni dominated country. And that permanent hatred between Shia and Sunnis is always going to remain.
So let's speak a little bit about radical ideologies. Do you think that these radical ideologies are exploiting the openness of the democracies in the world? Like Europe, there's a lot of extremism coming in there. Do you think that they're not prepared to confront these ideologies because of political correctness?
Yes, political correctness is the number one reason. And nobody wants to get into a mess. Everybody wants second term, third term as the prime minister or the leader of the country, except it's America where you cannot have any nothing more than two. So political correctness is the number one reason why people don't talk about it, and nobody wants to have a messy political life. Everybody wants some sort of things to happen here and there, even after they have left office, and they want the mess to be cleared by someone else. And as of now, even as of now, Europe has still not clearly understood how bad this radicalization is. They still haven't really understood because they've not gone through the systematic radicalization that both Israel and India have. Unfortunately, they'll also learn it the hard way. I hope they don't, but unfortunately they will, because when they will see that they will become minorities in their own country. And the worst part is the mullahs over there are openly saying that we are going to make this a Muslim country. It's going to be Sharia compliant. People are still not doing anything about it. I mean, that person is giving you threat on your face, and even then you can't understand anything. Then God bless you.
How does India deal with it? And has the way that they dealt with it changed over the years?
Like I said, then we have that problem. But prior to 2014, we used to have riots and terrorist activities happening on a very regular basis. On Diwali, unfortunately, we used to have some bomb blast happening on very regular basis. But over the last 10 years, 10, 11 years, there has been a huge improvement. It could also to do with the fact that the intelligence has become much stronger. You've learned from your mistakes, and there is far greater tech surveillance now possible, which was not possible when the tech had just arrived. So it could be a mixture of that. But primarily, I think one of the main reasons is the economic development. That if the person is making money and is able to provide for his or her family, then it becomes a little more difficult to convince that person to do certain activities, because he will see that, hey, I'm already providing for my family, my wife and my kids are taken care of, then I really don't need to blow myself up to make money so that they can have a better life. I'm not saying that it's really working, but it sort of adds as a deterrence and it stops people from doing certain activities.
Which is interesting because, in Gaza, unfortunately, Hamas has taken all the money, the leaders, and people live in poverty. They don't have anything else to live for. The only thing in town is Hamas. So if you want to get a job, you have to be part of Hamas. So it's interesting that you said that.
But they brought him, the people of that people, the people of that particular location. They brought Hamas. They elected the very people they wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And now we have to try to get rid of them, and it's it's not going to be
But how do you
easy.
get rid of ideology? You cannot kill each and the ideology never dies. And the hatred, the eternal hatred, I don't know if you will be able to understand. When you talk to common Pakistani, whatever bad is happening in their life, whatever bad is happening in their life, it is Yahud and Hanud. Yahud, obviously, you understand, and Hanud means Hindu. They've lost a cricket match. It has to be a Hindu doing something there. There is electricity problem. It has to be Yahud and Hanud everywhere. So they're living in a false paradise, or they're living in a fool's paradise where they just don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah, it's very. I hear that over and over again.
But one thing I felt, because I was talking to a lot of people in Israel, yes, they understand radicalization. They understand almost as much as India, probably more. They're more aware of things. I find that very good, that they're aware of who that enemy is. Indians do not know who their enemy is. There are very few people who are ready to accept the fact who their enemy is. There are a lot less Israelis who know that Pakistanis are just as bad or probably worse as compared to people from Hamas. Pakistanis also have a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
So the only thing that is stopping Pakistan from attacking Israel is the distance, because they do not have the bandwidth, they don't have the technology as of now, and because they are a puppet of America. But I think sooner or later that problem is going to come. And my humble suggestion to the people of Israel would be that not to allow Pakistan leaders to be part of the Gaza peace accord. They're only going to create mess if they've already not started creating mess. Because even if that person turns out to be an officer, at the back of his mind, there's always going to be fact that I have to kill that Jew. So you're going to bring the snake right inside your neighborhood by allowing that to happen. But people in Israel don't know much about Pakistan, and that's an unfortunate fact.
I watched the United Nations, and the way that Pakistan is speaking about Israel is always very combative. They're always the ones that are putting down Israel the most out of everybody else. Speaking about the United Nations, do you think that they lost their credibility by failing to condemn terrorism? Instead, they pick on Israel. That's something that we've seen over and over again. What are your thoughts on the United Nations?
United Nations is a failed organization, and there is not a single war that they've been successfully able to stop. There's not been a single conflict, there's not been a single disagreement, whether it is India, Pakistan, whether it is whatever, Turkey and the other countries around their neighborhood. They've not been able to do that. And and the primary reason is your enemy is my friend. So I don't see ever there are not going to be any improvement as far as the relations are concerned. That's not going to happen, and that's an unfortunate fact. We have to get over it, which is why if you will see, there are a lot of other alliances happening. BRICS is happening, IMAC is happening. I hope it happens. Because of the war, it got delayed. I hope that happens. A lot of other alliances are happening because of these reasons. And United Nations is become a sort of a place where all the leaders go once in a year. They have coffee, talk, travel outside the country, meet few people, and come back, and that's about it.
You met the B'nai Israel and Cochin Jewish communities. What did that experience reveal to you?
So, I'm by the time your video comes, we are going to have a detailed video of how the Cochin Jews. There was a shipwreck that happened across the Konkan coast about 2000 plus years. How they've been living very peacefully here, and they've been living across the length and breadth of the country, right from up north in Punjab, which is my hometown, to Bombay, which is now Mumbai, Cochin, and then Calcutta, and northeast Bene Israel group. You're going to have that video, and it's going to open eyes to a lot of people that how uh, 2000 years ago these people came here and they've been living here for all this while. There are synagogues about 10 kilometers from where I stay right now, and how the divorce matters were solved because it's a new country. We're talking about 2000 plus years where there was no WhatsApp, there was no Google Map. How did they arrive? What happened? Please, by the time this video comes, I would request your audiences to also go through it. Everything is in English.
Definitely. Do Jews and Hindus share a civilizational resilience rooted in their survival, meaning that they had to survive? Do you think that that's what connects them? What other connections or similarities do you see between Jews and Hindus?
I think the number one similarity is that both Jews and Hindus are not running after the fact that we want people to get converted to our religion. That's the most, you live your way, let us live our way, let us do business together. Let us both make money, let us both get rich, and that's about it. I think that's the most important reason. Whether it is Muslims, all they want to do is convert. Even in Christianity, at the end of the day, they really want people to get converted. But the fundamental difference is that there is no conversion process. A Jew can be only be born out of a Jewish mother. And similarly, in our case, so that is the fundamental similarity. And the second one is that we understand what are the cultural factors and sensitivities of each other. I just gave an example in the start of our video that they knew that I'm an Indian and I'm not going to have beef. And I saw people making an effort wherever I'm sitting, there should not be a bowl right next to me. I told them it doesn't matter, let it be there. I'm not that affected by it, but making sure there's an effort, constant effort about it. Similarly, when I've had Jewish friends coming to my place, I know certain meals they'll not have. So my mother will make sure that meal is not cooked at all. So that becomes one of the reasons, because people don't understand food is the very basic and the most important thing. And unfortunately, whenever I talk to certain Pakistanis, they will always say, they'll say, Chitresh, where can we get? Trying to poke you. They're trying to poke you for a specific purpose. They want you to say something, and then they'll say Islamophobia. Then they'll have the best card in the world, which is the victim card. So I think that was the fundamental thing, which is the reality, that we understand where our boundaries are and we don't poke into each other's lives. And at the end of the day, we both want to make money. Israel, being a very small country as far as geography is concerned, they're doing technologically the best in the world. They've got the best of tech, the best of defense. India, despite all the challenges, being 1.4 billion plus people from various communities and not had the best of politics, we are a little over $4.5 trillion. Hopefully, going to be third biggest economy in the world. Because for us, the most important thing is you make money, I make money, and we live together. That's about it. Don't poke into each other's lives.
Yeah. Near the end of Prime Minister Modi's speech today, he was speaking about the similarities between the Jewish holidays and the Hindu holidays and different concepts in Judaism that you have in Hinduism. So it was actually very interesting. So do you think that India-Israel relationship is not just a strategic alliance, it's also based on similar cultures that we understand each other, right? That's kind of what you were saying. Now, what do you think that Israelis misunderstand about India, and what do Indians misunderstand about Israel?
So that's where you've got me off guard, because I can't really think of much. But I think people from Israel feel that because we have an embassy of Palestine in India, in Delhi, we have an embassy of Iran in India, in New Delhi. We have obviously got a decent connections with Saudi Arabia. So people from Israel I think that they feel that we're truly not with the Israel side. We're not truly with the Israel side. So I feel that is where there can be a little bit of disagreement. And similarly, as far as India is concerned, we feel that Israel is too integrated with US, because at the end of the day, US interests are of a superpower and the hyperpower in the world, and Pakistan being one of their countries, and Israel is also very well connected. There is always that factor that sometime in the future, Israelis and Pakistanis can connect together. And that is something which is going to be a bit of an irritant for us.
Yeah. And what do you think that Israel can learn from India, and what India can learn from Israel as a country?
From an India's perspective is the technology. From the India's perspective is the technology. If I were to break it down, the first part is the tech part. The very fact that Israel proudly says that we are the startup nation of the world, the startup ecosystem is something that India is developing, but there are so many bureaucracies even now as we speak. There is so much red tapeism involved in getting certain things done. So the startup aspect, the startup ecosystem culture is changing in India, but there is lot to be done and lot to be learned uh, from Israel. Now, as far as Israel is concerned, what needs to be learned from India is how that we have to do a little bit of balancing act by talking to people from different societies, but at the back of our mind, Israelis need to know that are we may be talking to a lot of people, but we really know where our interests are, and our interests are in working together with Israel, because there's a development aspect involved. At the end of the day, that becomes the fundamental reason why we both countries have done well immediately after our independence, because we sort of got independence almost around the same time. So that is something we should definitely learn from each other.
Now, you've attended defense summits in Israel. What did you see over there? And does it surprise you how Israel is able to innovate, even though they're on constant threat?
What I really admire, the fact is the technology. Primarily, Israel is a desert country, despite that fact, whereas India is much greener. There are a lot of rivers, infinite amount of rivers. Adapting to new technologies is something, it was probably very, very important for Israel, and is still not as important for India. So I think that is something that needs to be really learned, that how can a small country like Israel be able to produce far more than it should? As far as the agro summits are concerned, as far as the tech is concerned, we are still dependent on various tech platforms. And this is where I feel India needs to also learn from our enemy, which is our enemy number two, which is China. China is genuinely not dependent on technology from the US. They have their own WeChat, they have their own maps. So they're not dependent on US as far as Google Maps is concerned. They're not dependent on WhatsApp is concerned. They have those rare earth thing of their own. They're pretty much the world leader when it comes to that. So that is where I feel that India needs to really step up, because we are totally dependent on certain things. Tomorrow, if WhatsApp stops working, if there are Google Maps stop working, AWS and Microsoft Azure services stop working, it's going to seriously impact India and not impact China at all. So these are the things that I feel India really needs to invest on. And I think the recently concluded AI summit, which happened about a week and a half back in Delhi, that is where I believe now the current government has realized that we need to create our own LNM for the rural sector, where internet could be a bit of a challenge. And most of the Indians do not have expensive iPhones. Most of the Indians have a 50, 70, $100 rupee phone. So I think now the systems are changing.
Now, how critical has the Israeli defense technology been to India, and how it protects itself from other countries?
Very important, very important, right from the 1971 war. But more importantly, after that, in 1999, in the Kargil war, beyond visual range missiles was given to us by Israel in 1999 Kargil war. And after that, even in the Balakot strike, which happened in 2019, again, it was being done by Israel. And I believe as of now, as we speak, Barak and all other missile systems are jointly produced, and all of those things are important. We need to learn quite a lot. Having said that, I think the Iron Dome technology that Israel has and our Akash, some say Akash is marginally better. So I'm not that tech guy, so I'll not comment on that. I'll say both of them are equal. But because the size of India is huge, then we need to have much greater or much more air defense system, because our border with Pakistan is almost 2,000 kilometers long. And with China, it's about another 3,500 kilometers long. But I am sure we're going to definitely hear today a lot of defense startups happening. And I think the Make in India campaign or the Atmanirbhar campaign, which Prime Minister Modi is very, very particular about, we're going to see a lot of, I hope we see a lot of things happening today.
Yeah. Now, do you think that India and Israel are fighting different wars, or is it the same ideological war just on different fronts?
The same ideological war on different fronts, because like I said, Hamas for you and ISI and Pakistan Army for us, their mindset, their ideology, how they treat the women, how they treat humanity is exactly the same. But other than that, the ideological war which Pakistan has waged on us and Hamas has waged on Israel, that remains the same. So there is no difference between the two.
What do you think that the India-Israel cooperation will look like, 10 years from now? What is your hope for the future of it?
See, Pakistan and China. When Pakistan attacks India, China is not going to do anything. China will provide all the technology, all the defense technology, which it did during the Operation Sindoor. But just in case we have a war with China, Pakistan will definitely attack India. That's a given stance. And US is not going to be involved at all. US is just going to sit in the corner, watch the war from its satellites and have popcorn. Whereas as far as Israel is concerned, because at the end of the day, there is a lot of historical context which we started off our discussions with. And Israel knows that Pakistan also views Israel in the same lens as it views India. So I am assuming there is going to be a military level cooperation for sure, as far as particularly the missile systems and the surveillance and the drones are concerned. That is going to happen. I see, unfortunately, a Pakistan conflict happening again very soon. A particular conflict of India and China at this point of time, I don't see that happening now, but it will happen in 5-10 years from now, because for China the number one enemy is America, and for America the number one enemy is China. So at this point of time, China would sort of try to have some sort of border dispute, if not resolved, but somewhat managed. because it does not want to get involved with India and lose its focus on America.
Now, how do we explain the relationship between the United States and India? Because you would think that United States wants to distance itself from China, and the partner that you would think of would be India.
Hmm.
But yet it doesn't seem that, at least in this presidency, that they've made that type of a decision. What are your thoughts on that?
America is primarily run by Jewish and Indians. So the lot of tech companies, lot of CEOs, lot of IT guys, like it or not, they are Indians. Like it or not, they are Indians. And while he plans to have his own ecosystem, which is good, which we are not debating, but you really can't cut off an ecosystem and say, hey, you know what, tomorrow we're going to not have any Indian tech guys working here. We're going to have our own guys working. But that person is yet to be born, then he or she will have to go to the school, will have to get his educational thing done. And that ecosystem will take 15, 20 years. Whereas in India, just like Jewish parents, Indian parents are just as nasty. You need to study, you need to do this, you need to finish off a graduation, get on time, do this, get married, have kids, do this ABBC things, invest money, invest in real estate, do all of these things. So how do you change that mindset? That mindset is not going to change overnight. Yes, the current Trump administration is pro Pakistan, more pro Pakistan than India for his personal interest because of the crypto mining and other things. Pakistan does a lot of dirty work for America, which their own defense minister Khwaja Asif spoke on either Al Jazeera or CNN. I would ask your audiences to do it, and it's available online. Khwaja Asif himself said that we have been doing dirty work for the West for the last 30 years. So America needs Pakistan to do their work, whether it is in Afghanistan and through Afghanistan, Central Asia, and Iran. I would think that even if Trump wants, because he's left with what, just about 3 years now, just about 3 years. Even if he wants, he will not be able to change much because at the end of the day, Indians are too deeply rooted in the system. And at the same time, the average household income of an average Indian is twice that of an American. And you need to have a reason to let go of that person. If that person is working on time, is delivering what he or she has to do, is not interested in whatever petty politics you are interested in, goes back home to his wife and family, then there are no reasons to let go of that person. You could have that personal vendetta, but after a couple of years, all the tech companies, they are going to see their product development, the software development, and other things, their productivity is going to go down and it's going to affect in the stock market. Eventually, America is run by the big tech companies. So there is a momentary pause as far as our relationship is concerned. But at the business level, I don't think much can be done because we are too integrated amongst with each other.
Now, how do you view a country like Qatar that is, on the one hand, very close to the United States? On the other hand, they fund terrorism. They shield the Hamas leaders. They fund Al Jazeera. That's what they are. Muslim Brotherhood. They're kind of have their hands in everything, and it's been a problem for Israel. How do you view a country like Qatar?
Qatar is an irritant also for India because of their proximities with Pakistan. And this is where the great US game comes into the picture. They are the ones who made sure that the Taliban and the Hamas headquarters happens in Qatar. Fancy offices, beautiful country, nice hotels, plush lobbies, good looking people roaming around here and there. But so this is where I think it is America's short sightedness to have multiple proxies into the picture. Because the moment our prime minister reached Israel, Al Jazeera Hindi started posting nasty stuff on Twitter, now X, on YouTube, on Instagram about things that India has done. Prime Minister Modi could have done this, but is doing that. What about how will the Prime Minister Modi look at the faces of the parents who've lost their children in this war? So Al Jazeera has started doing their work. Unfortunately, there is nothing that much can be done because America has their base. I think probably the biggest base in the Middle East is in Qatar. I could be wrong. But there is nothing much can be done because America wants to play double games and Qatar happens to be in the right place at the right time for doing all that.
Speaking about media, what is the media like in India? Is it more liberal? more conservative, or are they pro-Israel, anti-Israel? How would you describe media coverage in India itself?
So, two different lobbies. One lobby, which is being right wing, or I would say pro India, is very pro Israel. The other lobby, which is governed by the left wing, is needless to say anti India. The Congress Party of India is definitely anti Israel. I would say they are anti India. If they're anti India, automatically anti Israel, it automatically happens. But it is open. There are a lot of people who keep coming up with reports here and there. I mean, I keep talking to them that you have been given a platform where you can openly abuse your prime minister. You can openly abuse your army chief, and you can go home and live peacefully. And then they will say that, you know what, Indian media is not all that open. Hey, you are living peacefully despite the fact you're abusing your prime minister. Try doing that in Pakistan or Iran or something like that.
But even in like a place like England, they could arrest you for things that
Yes,
you say. So there's no,
yes.
even over there, you don't have freedom of speech.
And um, I think we have taken this the whole context of freedom of speech far too seriously here in India. I believe, irrespective of the party, my prime minister, maybe if I have not voted for him or her, at the end of the day, now that person is my prime minister. That sense of belongingness needs to be there, because what happens, there is so much hatred that's happened also in India, that if other country person is saying anything to our prime minister, and if I don't like him, I'll also accept it, and I'll make sure that the fire burns even more.
If there's anything that you want to leave me off with, anything we didn't speak about, or if you want to leave us with a final message, you can do so.
I like to understand from you, how do the Jewish community in US, just like you, how do they view the relations between Israel and India?
I was speaking to somebody yesterday that the fact that Israel is interested in India is obvious. You have 10 million people interested in 1.4 billion people. But the other way around, the fact that you have 1.4 billion people interested in 10 million people, which is the size of one of your cities, small cities maybe,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Is something that we think about and really appreciate. Because a lot of times you think that Israel is alone in the world, especially after October 7th and the protests in the West and everything like that, then the anti-Semitism. You feel alone. But when you know that there are many people in India that love Israel, I interviewed Abhijit Iyer Mitra.
A good friend.
uh, he's a great guy, and it was an amazing interview. The way he ended the interview was he said that anytime you feel down, you should remember that there's 1.4 billion Indians in India that love you, so you should never feel down about that.
I'll
So
copy paste it, pass on the message.
what he said, I remember, that really stayed with me. um
So, I mean, I'll tell you, I was in Jerusalem Hills when the last phase of my stay there. I saw bikers standing there, and I thought, let me just have a word with them. And the moment I started talking to them, everybody had an India story, irrespective of the age, from 25 to 65, 70. Almost 80% of them have an India story, because immediately after their IDF, they've come to India. Predominantly they come to India. About 70% of them do come to India, Nepal, or Sri Lanka, or something like that. They do come to India. And everybody remembers those carefree days. When you don't have to think much about the world, you've done what you have to. You just want maybe a month or two, just relax, have a good time, and forget about what's going on. And that is where India comes into the picture. And the moment they saw me, I was talking to them about bikes, boys being boys, asking about, I said, hey, you know what, I've got the same bike, I've got that. And they said, why don't you ride? I said, hey, I don't have a driving license. And then, you know what? There is no cop here. Why don't you go for a ride? I said, no, no, I'm not going to do that. The last thing I want is, and those common things. He said, why you want to ride with us? I said, I would love to. So the other person gave me his helmet, and I was riding on the bike with him. And it was supposed to be a 10-minute ended up being an hour. They took me to their homes. We ended up having something to eat and drink. And it was just so amazing. It was as if that we knew each other. And now they are planning to come here. They plan to go to Ladakh. They've been asking me where to rent their bikes from. I said, leave that to me. Just come to Delhi. Just tell me your budget and your thing is sorted. That's about it. And this is something that is not dependent on either your prime minister or our prime ministers. Prime ministers will change and they should change. But this fact of trust, this fact of knowing each other, that we are safe in each other's countries, that is not going to change. And that should not change. That's going to be the worst thing that if that changes ever.
And the fact that after these people serve in the IDF, they come to India, that has been going on for decades.
Yes.
That's not something that's new. And I think it's now more than ever where Israelis, they go to some countries, they get attacked. There's anti-Semitism in many countries. But when you go to India, you're safe.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that is only going to make more, I think, IDF people after they serve to come
Yes.
to India.
Because when I was in MFA in Jerusalem, there were people who came to me because they knew what happened in Pahalgam. 22nd April 2025, in Pakistan, a terrorist came and they attacked and they killed innocent civilians just because of their religion. The MFA guys came to me and then they said, "We are sorry for your loss." And they stood up. There was a 1 minute silence. They didn't have to do it. There was no requirement of that protocol, but they did that. It just showcases that we are with you. And what was the film festival massacre all about? They were brutally killed and murdered because of their faith. And what was Pahalgam attack all about? They were killed, brutally murdered only because of their faith. And uh, if 26/11, a lot of people from Israel know about it because there were many Jews who were unfortunately also targeted in Mumbai where 26/11 2008 happened. A lot of terrorist intercept said that make sure that the people you kill are Hindus and Jews. So when they have not made any distinction between us, then that's a good thing for us and we have to fight together. And there is no option, there is no plan B, and you cannot debate with the monster. When the monster is going to hunt you and kill you for your background, for your belief system, for your openness, and they are going to use our openness against us. And
That is
that's
true.
something which is happening in Europe. In India, we had a CA NRC protest in December 2019, just before COVID happened, where it was that all the Hindus who are left in Pakistan, they can come to India, and I'm sorry, all the Hindus from Pakistan that have come to India, their process of integrating them in the Indian society with the citizenship is going to be faster. And then Al Jazeera, through their channels here in India, made sure the protests for irrelevant reasons, absolutely irrelevant reasons. So they know exactly what they have to. If they can see us as enemy number one, and
Yeah.
will not improve, they will not learn, they don't want to change, then good. We need to send them to the 72 virgins that they want to go to.
We both went through terrorism, and hopefully we don't go through more. But it looks like as long as we have these religions out there that want to conquer the world, we will have to, stay vigilant and take care of ourselves.
I tell to a lot of Indians here, we must visit Israel as tourists. We go to Europe, it's just as expensive, maybe few percent here or there. Why can't Indian tourists go to Israel? I keep talking to them. I love the Mediterranean beach of Tel Aviv. It was brilliant. I was just having a good time. And eventually, once I'll be there, when I had a day off, the people over there would come and ask me, "Hey, are you from India?" And I'm here come for a swim, and they'll come and talk to me and they'll talk about their story. Somebody would say that I went last year. There was a guy who said I went to India 30 years back and I just couldn't go. Now I've spoken to you, I feel like going again. So I always say that to a lot of people here in India, visit Israel. If you want to learn innovation, if you want to learn tech, if you are depressed in life, if you've lost money financially, you know what they are going through. Geographically much smaller country going through the same problem. We are 1.4 billion, a massive size country in terms of size, but there is very little to lose for Israelis. So go there, go there for agriculture, go there for innovation. If not anything, if you're into religion, if you want to learn history, go to Jerusalem. I was going through, I saw how the Romans came, and there was this lady, Dahalia, and she was explaining me all the things. I keep talking to her. I'm going to have a podcast on her on the history of Jerusalem. So how did the war happen? So whether you are into Christianity, whether you are a Muslim, whether you want to see tourism, whether you want to see good beaches, you want to have a good time, you must visit Israel. That's going to open your eyes. And now the direct flight is just about 5.5, 6 hours away. An India flight from north to south is 4 hours.
Wow. Yeah. And just like India, I know in India you have different climates in India. If you want cold, you want hot, whatever you want is there. And in Israel also, so, I think that definitely our relationships should become only stronger. And yeah, every time I post a video about India, I get a lot of comments from Indians about how much they love Israel, and
Yes.
just the love is mutual. And yeah, thank you for spending the time with me.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to all your viewers as well.
Okay,
Bye bye.
I hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
All the best. If you have a 401k or an IRA, please listen. Gold is at record highs. What many people don't know is this: you can move part of your retirement money legally and without tax penalties into physical gold you actually own. Alpha Omega Gold helps you do this through a gold IRA. Your gold is real, it is stored safely, it is in your name. Learn more at ao.gold/stand. Alpha Omega Gold is our sponsor, and they proudly stand with Israel.